So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar on the future of automation. I'm Ivan and I work for Maximise IT, who are experts in intelligent automation. Today, our webinar features our guest speaker, Kieran Gilmurray, who has a whole wealth of knowledge and expertise he'll be sharing with us on his presentation. He's very kindly put together for everyone, helping us raise some money for the NHS in their battle with COVID. A recent global survey showed that 88% of business leaders see automation as a solution to the global productivity problem. We're really looking forward to hearing Kieran's thoughts on the future of automation and how this is going to benefit customers and organisations alike. If everyone attending can think of some questions to ask Kieran at the end in the Q&A and make a donation, however small, via the Virgin Money landing page to help the NHS would be grand. Just to manage expectations, we're running this webinar live, so please bear with us if you see here the odd cat or toddler jumping around or making noise in the background. Kieran, thank you for joining. I'll let you introduce yourself and kick off with the presentation. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much and welcome everybody today. Today I'm going to talk about the future of automation. I've been in business 27 plus years. Doing roles like ICT, analytics, automation, operations. I've seen automation probably from its early days. I'm involved in automation on a daily basis, and I can see where automation is going in the future. At least it's my guess. Therefore, bear with me today. Let's see where we can get going, and hopefully you learn something from today. Well, look, often people talk about the future of work as being something far away, and I deliberately use the future of work because automation and work are linked together. Stories about robots, artificial intelligence, augmented and virtual reality, smart everything, Internet of Things, driverless cars, digital personal assistants, they're all spoken about as if they exist in the future and they're far away or some faraway land and shouldn't trouble us in the near future. But the future of work is here and now because of technology and automation. This isn't the stuff of future vision. These pieces of tech are with us today and they're becoming increasingly prevalent and increasingly common. I think as you see, new generations of workers like millennials, Gen X, globalization, politics, all these things are at the fore. All these things are driving change. All these things are driving the future of work. But technology is the one thing that's actually impacting how we work, live and consume and talk more than any of those things put together. Or if not, it's a primary one. Today I'm going to look at some of the technologies that are driving change, and we're going to look and consider what this means for you, for your organizations, for your colleagues, and for your customers as well. So today's agenda, I'm going to split it up into numbers of sections, just so you can see this in advance. So I'm going to ask you a question, and if you wouldn't mind just suspending your answers for a moment. And the question is, are people more or less creative than computers or machines? We're going to look at what technologies are driving change. We're going to look at how industry is impacted. We're going to look as well to see what you should or can do about the future of automation and how this impacts work. And then right at the end, we're going to run a question and answer session. So if you've got some questions, please get them ready now and keep them for the end of the talk. So a moment to suspend your imagination. So before we talk about, or I show you a video, and that's what I'm going to show you next, let's consider this. There is a great debate sometimes that is said is that are people more or less creative than machines? And let me give you an example, and you'll see a video in a moment, a trailer, a Hollywood trailer, and it's fair to say, if we can agree this out loud, that Hollywood and the movies have impacted our lives for generations. The actors and the creatives behind or within the movie industry are amongst the most creative folks that we know. So let me introduce you to a movie trailer. If you've got voice on your laptop, please, or desktop, wherever you are at the moment, turn up the volume. This is sure to grab your attention. Afterwards, I'm going to explain why I showed you this movie and why I'm talking about it. But I will give you a little bit of context. This is a movie trailer. It's numbers of years old. It's about Morgan, who's a bioengineered child who began talking and walking 1 month after existence, or after her existence, exceeding the wildest expectations of her creators. But when Morgan attacks one of her handlers, a corporate troubleshooter, who visits the remote top secret facility where she's kept to assess the risks of keeping her alive, there's a problem. The girl breaks free and starts running amok. The staff find themselves in a dangerous lockdown with an unpredictable and violent synthetic human. A automation by IBM's Watson. So what happened was IBM fed the engine its data, and it fed last movie trailers, and it looked at how audiences reacted, and then IBM Watson took all of that input together and created a movie trailer. And I think you will agree that this is a scary, imaginative, creative thing, not something that you might expect coming out of a machine. And that's what I want you to think, that automation isn't just going to impact manual jobs, or it's not going to impact us. Automation is going to impact everyone in different ways. And that might be in some elements job replacement, but in lots of elements, it's actually going to be job augmentation. So look, what I've got is a question for you. And on this question here, what I want you to do is, if you look on your GoToWebinar panel, you'll see a little hands up symbol. And I'm going to pick some of these and ask you a question. And this question is whether you think these are true or whether you think these are false. So let's begin. Put your hand up if you think these are true. So the writing, let's take the top one. The Washington Post's artificial intelligent robot reporter has written over 850 articles. If you think that is true, would you mind putting your hand up? Okay, I'm seeing numbers of answers coming in here. Most people thinking it's true. And believe it or not, this is true. It is actually an artificial intelligent robot that writes newspaper articles. This is actually numbers of years old. Again, we think of that as newspaper reporters, as creatives who, you know, go through college or work in papers for numbers of years. How could a robot, an artificially driven robot, actually do it? And they can. Let's do another one. And let's say robots can copy data onto a computer screen 15 times faster than a human being. Okay, let's see what people think on that one. True, press the hand. False, don't press the hand. Believe it or not, let me just put you out of your misery here. That one is true as well. Actually, all the items on this screen is true. There's something called robotic process automation. It's a technology you may or may not have heard of. It's increasingly popular, if not the technology to be talked about at this moment in time. It mimics what people do on their keyboards and keystrokes, and then you play it back. And because it's computer to computer interaction, it is much faster than a human being on a keyboard as well. Each of these, you might have heard Google chatbot a little while ago, booking a hair appointment. And again, AI is validating claims in seconds. I'm going to show you an example later on of a company who are using artificial intelligence to do amazing things. Interesting, again, it's one of those industries that we think is amongst the most routine, the most potentially boring, and I don't mean that rudely in any sense. But insurance is being transformed, and I will show you how automation, technology, artificial intelligence are all impacting that space. So what technologies are influencing change the greatest? You may agree or disagree with these. These are my things that I believe are going to influence work and the future the most significantly. So again, starting from the left, so 5G, absolutely prevalent now. The speeds are fantastic. You can work on a mobile, a tablet, a smart, anything, absolutely everywhere. Smart watches are taking over. I think everybody or a lot of people have those, and they help you with steps and monitoring your breathing, monitoring your heartbeat, and. Driverless vehicles and like drones are becoming more prevalent. It will be interesting. You start to see in the south of Ireland how robot vehicles are driving, little tiny robot vehicles are delivering messages and parcels all the time. You can imagine that lightweight drones, Amazon are looking into that, will become a more prevalent thing. Artificial intelligence, I think the examples that I showed you a moment ago are impacting, you know, on how we model and how we make decisions in underwriting, claims, pricing, you name it. They're used as a back end of chatbots. cloud computing and vast data sets are impacting how we look at things. So the cheapness of Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud is allowing people to spin up computers and ways of working on websites, all in a matter of days, never mind hours. Years and years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, when I started in this industry, it could have taken you weeks and weeks to order a computer, then the software, and then build it. Augmented and virtual reality and haptics, that's the piece where your watch clicks your arm or moves. That's becoming more prevalent. Again, it's interesting to see some of the uses of that technology at the moment. So for example, building virtual reality bodies that people or medical students can then practice upon without the need to upset families or to try and find people to hone their skills. You see examples of where industrial companies are using those to train people on how to fix and repair airplanes or how to go into blast furnaces and actually work. Really interesting space. You see robotic process automation, which I mentioned a moment ago, automation and Internet of Things starting to become more prevalent. You know, you're starting to see truly intelligent organizations start to evolve. And again, the other bit you're seeing is personal assistants. So lots of us have Amazon, Alexa, you know, Siri on our phones and mobiles. We're starting to use those a lot more. And interesting to see that over the next numbers of years, I think Google pointed to this as well, as opposed to manually typing things. We'll have smarter homes, we'll have smarter ways of searching, and they're trying to work out how do they keep advertisement or keep relevant in that age. But lots of these things here are impacting how organizations work, or they're influencing them. You know, business looking to move legacy apps off servers into the cloud. You know, firms recognizing the need to shift to digital now more than ever. And particularly something with 5G where maybe people struggle with broadband at home, that's going to become really, really key. Digital payments, digital cash enabled by all these technologies will allow online everything to happen faster, probably better, quicker. The use of digital conferencing, we're all on Zoom today. There's lots of different examples of that, but it'll be interesting to see how artificial and AR and VR, augmented reality and virtual reality impact in future. Can you imagine an avatar sitting in a virtual meeting room beside you to make that little bit more interactive? The same about all these things will drive online communities, and the automation of tasks will enhance or help how we actually work. So those are the things that I see as key. And what is going to be the outcome of those areas? As I said, I think I'll see two things. So technology is transforming work. I think things will be faster and quicker than before. I think we'll see a lot more digital. I think we'll see a lot more omni-channel. Again, you're seeing that a lot at the moment, where people can't physically turn up in a shop. Some they can, some they can't, but they're using phone and web and chat and online forms. I think you'll see agile with the introduction of all these technologies. People are able to spin up online websites and test and try things on the internet that much faster than they ever could. I think you'll see AI-driven decision-making happening a lot more in organizations. So again, lots of relevant examples out there. So pricing and insurance, you might be surprised that not everybody's charged the same by every company out on the market. Depending on how you turn out to be a sticky or non-sticky customer can determine whether you'll get charged more or less. The rights or wrongs of that are to be debated. I think you'll see a lot more transparent and intelligence organizations. I think you'll see a lot more self-service organizations. So at the moment, if you try to ring one of your large telephone providers, you're getting sent to chatbots, you're getting sent to online FAQs, you're getting sent to self-service. I see a lot of that growing, but a lot of this will be technology driven. And the other thing that's really key is that it's very personalized. So you don't want to be one of many. Organizations can use data and all this technology to give you a unique or more unique service. But the world is changing at pace, and that changing pace will continue. And again, if we say, what does that mean not only for organizations, but for the people who work in the organizations? Well, let's take where people are at the moment, you know, in general, not for everyone, but in general. So today we have, you know, if we take a human on the left, we're looking at, you know, delivering value is maybe 20%, a little bit more of a person's role. We start out wanting to do 100% unique and creative pieces, and over time we end up delivering very little. You know, we have to answer queries and FAQs, we have to spend time processing and inputting. Whereas if we introduce these technologies in the right way, we will actually augment people's behavior. So you can see at the moment that, you know, RPA, robotic process automation, will grow, intelligent automation, chatbots, personalized assistants. All these things will drive what I call the millennial experience-led future of work. And for organizations and for people to succeed, They will need to embrace these types of technologies, to engage in these things. So the future of individuals, employers, education systems, they will all need to respond. Jobs will need to change. People will need to prepare for this future of work, and investment is required. Now, let me show you an example of an intelligent organization. Earlier on, I mentioned that their insurance industry, at times, not by everyone, but can be considered quite a staid, quite a boring industry. And people say it won't or can't change. But there are companies like Lemonade who are evolving, who are using digital, they're using AI, they're using automation, they're using online, they're using cloud and mobile to make insurance frictionless. So let me play you a little movie here where you will see Lemonade in practice. And as you're watching this, consider that this wasn't done this year, it wasn't done last year. This is 5 or 6 years old. Let's have a listen to this and tell me what you think of insurance afterwards. I think it's fair to say you might agree that that is anything but dull as an industry when you can see something like that happening. That's a great example of two people who come in to set up a company to disrupt the insurance landscape. And isn't that an experience that everybody would want from their insurance provider going forward? As I said, it's roughly 2005, so that isn't today. But what are those things, therefore, that's stopping all organizations or organizations from becoming that little bit more digital or doing exactly as Lemonade have done? Well, I've highlighted here what I think are some of the things that are causing organizations not to move forward at pace. So one is people, and that, I don't mean that rudely to anyone, but sometimes the fear of change can cause people to resist the unknown. So how do we try and help them? How do we paint a brighter, better picture of the future and help them get there? Interestingly, because of COVID, a tragic place that we're in at this moment in time, people are having to change. There's no choice. We're having to work from home. We're having to learn from home. We're having to communicate with each other over distance. We're using Apple Pay, card readers, Zoom. All these things have suddenly become part of our lives, no matter what age you are. And you might be surprised with people having to make this change. These things are providing a good degree of convenience. It's necessary, and will people actually go back, or will they expect more of this going forward in their lives? Regulation is a key thing here. Driverless cars actually, when you look statistically, are safer than people driving. But again, you can find that governments and we are slow to react to the digital age. So it's tough. The other bit here is sometimes talent. That can be a real challenge for organizations, and that can be a lack thereof. So there's not a great glut of people out in the market who understand digital and all the technologies that I mentioned earlier on, the robotics, the augmented reality, cloud, and whatever else. And therefore, organizations have a task to do to not only upskill their people, but to hire talent in at an affordable rate and blend that into their organization at the same time. Organization culture, that's a key one. You can see different organizations, not all again, where attempting to digitally transform is very difficult because there's maybe organizational culture, there's resistance to change, maybe there's teams that are quite siloed across the organizations or functions. But to do digital right, you realistically need to redesign your business, so that processes work end to end using digital technology to deliver the business outcomes you need. And those business outcomes are really key, because very often I've seen people using a technology or discovering the latest shiny great tool, and then they attempt to apply it to a problem, but that has never worked. I've never seen it work. Therefore, you need to understand, what is the business outcome that you want? How do you build a business case? In other words, the finances with a business partner or a finance partner to help you digitally transform and make the economic best decisions that you can to get the greatest return. Whatever you need to do, look then for the technology. Don't look for a technology and try and apply it to something. I call that a hammer. You got a hammer and everything looks like a nail. The last thing there I see sometimes is experience. As I mentioned, same as talent, there's not many organizations have done this, and therefore it's key that you buy in the talent, or you think way ahead and you start getting your workforces ready now. There's no time like the present to begin to move to digital. You'll have seen that the future of work is automation, it's digital, it's transformed. I don't think people will go back. And if you don't have that experience or can't hire it, then it's time to look for a consultancy or an integration expert or someone in the market that can help you get there. And I would suggest you do it sooner rather than later. So look, what are the basic questions businesses need to ask themselves in this automation or digital age? Well, one, I go back to the key thing, what's your strategy? What are you trying to do? What are you trying to execute? What value you're trying to bring to the market? What should you look like in a digital age? Customers, you might want to bring something to customers, but are you meeting customers' expectations? Are you being transparent and very open? Interestingly, back to Lemonade a moment ago, they're very clear about how much money they make, and whatever money's left over, they're clear about the charities that they give it to, and they're very transparent about that. And that's something you'll see in a millennial generation coming forward. Leadership in a digital age. Can our leadership team articulate a digital vision? Sometimes leaders put in, digitization, forget to tell people, where is it that they want to go? What is the vision that they have? People get scared, get worried, maybe they don't go in the same direction. Open innovation. We've seen too many times in the past organizations are closed. They want to do everything themselves, but we're in a global economy. We're very connected. We're very in the cloud, or increasingly in the cloud. And therefore we need to bring the best of organizations together to allow us to succeed. Agile ways of working. Again, because of cloud, massive computing power, you can spin up a website within reason, within hours, within days, very cheaply. You can rapidly prototype a product. You can do things really, really quickly. And if it doesn't work, throw it away. But if it does work, iterate and bring out more and more value. Culture. Is your organization ready for the digital age? Is it ready to digitally transform? Is it ready for the future of automation? If it's not, then what can you do to try and get that working really well? Is your HR strategy aligned? And this is one that I focus on a lot. If you haven't got the talent in your organization to do this, it can be expensive. The phrase war on talent was invented years ago. It's never been more prevalent, and I don't think it will, even in recessionary times. Those folks with the right digital skills, the right cloud skills, the right automation skills will be in high demand going forward. So if you can't afford it, where can you get these skills? But your HR strategy should be aligned with your digital strategy. You should be preparing now for next year, the year after, the year after. Digital and success metrics look quite different than anyone else. So what are you going to do, or how are the metrics that you're going to put in place to know whether your program is succeeding, whether you're innovating using technology or not? Have you currently got the foundations in place to begin? And if you haven't, and you're not ready for 24/7, or your people, your processes, your systems, your technology, and your vision, when are you going to get ready? I would request, based on what I'm seeing in the market, that you really just begin, you try something, you work it out, you start at these conversations, and you get ready for a digital, more automated future. Okay, so let's summarize. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for listening here. So what I would argue here, what I've posed, is technology is changing everything and will continue to do so, but faster. The firms of the future will those that will embrace and enable technology-driven change. The war on talent will become fiercer and fiercer. Cognitive enterprises will emerge, roles will change, emotional intelligence, decision-making, innovative thinking, creativity, leadership, the leadership and management, remote, globally distributed talent, the ability to pivot and rapidly change will be key going forward, and getting the right leadership and worker talent working to allow that to happen is paramount. Customers' expectations are increasing. Amazon is years old now. We sometimes think of it as really new, but they have created expectations in the market that everyone almost has to meet. So we need to meet them, or we need to exit the market. You will have seen companies that are what might be considered new entrants to traditional markets like Lemonade, changing how customers expect services delivered, or how their needs are going to be met. And customers expect this personalized, digital, multi-channel, one-to-one, timely, informed, transparent experience. And again, I would say that those who embrace change will survive and they will thrive. And those, when I say those who embrace change, it's about optimizing your customer experience 100%. It's also about optimizing your employee experience. Please, please never forget your employees. You cannot put in something that your employees don't like or won't work with. It just doesn't work. And then to drive an exceptional technology-driven experience, you need to get ready to do that. And I would say, as I mentioned, begin now, or your firm might rapidly disappear. And I don't mean that in any threatening sense. You can just see the need to move client relationships, marketing, ways of working, employment practices, and everything else. Those all need to change to digital, automated, online, to attract customers, to retain customers, to attract staff, and to retain your staff as well. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kieran. That was a really interesting presentation. If everyone would like to send their questions in, what I'll do is I'll read them out and Kieran will very kindly answer them. So just wait for some questions to come in, Kieran, and I'll read them out too.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you think robotics increasingly replacing jobs will have a more negative or positive impact on society in the long run? What are your thoughts on that, Kieran?
It's a good question. So I say in the long run, robotics will be a positive thing. Automations will free up people to do the things that they are the best at, their creative, innovative, empathetic, brilliant selves. And sometimes I think people worry about automation replacing jobs. It's always been the case. If you look through history, that's happened. But what has also happened is when people have moved to those creative roles, they've created more value for organizations, and any of the money or capital that's been freed up, that allows organizations to invest or venture capitalists to release new money to do new and creative things. So at time, automation has driven even more jobs than ever. So I'm an optimist and say the future will be brighter. In the long run, automation will absolutely be positive.
Thank you, Kieran. Okay. What do you think some of the biggest challenges will be for organizations trying to embrace automation strategies?
I think I'll go back to some of the things I mentioned in the presentation, Ivan, and it's mixtures of, now possibly it's having the money to do these things, and, budgets are constrained. I think definitely it's the talent. Organizations don't necessarily have talent that's been seasoned automation developers or has experience in robotics or artificial intelligence. It's out there. You can buy it in. You really, really can. I think there's a layer of worry and resistance, and confidence I think is affecting things. But the one thing I would say to organizations and folks on the call is that now more than ever, as awkward as things are that we have to work from home, we have found ways that we can do this, and you can find ways with very small amounts of money to invest in automation, to invest in digital. As I mentioned, you can put a website up in the cloud in a matter of hours, and paying cents or dollars or very small quantities of cash to actually get something happening. So overcome some of the fears and just try it. If it doesn't work, knock it down, build it again.
Okay. Are there any business processes you think should never be automated? And if so, why?
Yeah, definitely. I cannot see, despite looking at that movie trailer earlier on that causes hair to go up in my head, or what little I have left to go up in my head, it's a scary thing. That's a creative way to do it, but that was, fed something that people had created. Computer scientists had to work with that application to identify, what would or wouldn't work. There's a little bit here. Are we able to use artificial intelligence to create a movie? Well, actually, there is one called Accept Sunspring, I think it was, that was done in, numbers of years ago. When you look at it, when you understand it was artificial intelligence created something, it kind of looks a little bit silly, but you accept it. But I don't think you can replace human creativity, emotional intelligence. Do you want a manager to coach you and give you that feedback, personal, one-to-one, using every part of their emotions and well-being and everything else, or do you want a machine to do that? So the stuff that's empathetic, creative, innovative, the human characteristics that we have, we shouldn't, nor do I think we will be able to recreate those using artificial intelligence or anything else. So it's keep away from that. Any of the boring, mundane stuff like processing, routine transactions, I call it the clickety-click, not the thinkety-think. If you can go and make that happen with robotics or AI, please go and do it, and please take the robot out of the human.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. This is a good question. What's your view on hyper-automation? Do you think we're nearing the hyper-automation era?
Yeah, I think maybe I've quite a tongue-in-cheek approach to this one. Maybe the word hype at the beginning of that suggests that it's interesting because the technologies I'm talking about here, robotics and artificial intelligence and VR and whatever else, it kind of all connects into that grouping, and it's a great marketing phrase. But I would use the word hype. I do think those technologies are available. I do think we're in an era where if we just get on and try it, like look at Lemonade, that's 2015, that's 5 years ago. It isn't today. That movie our movie trailer we looked at a moment ago was 4 years old. So all the technologies are there. Ignore some of the hype. Part of the hype is people overselling what a technology can do. You know, it goes back to that hammer and nail thing I mentioned earlier on. If only you had a robot or artificial intelligence, you could solve all your business problems. It doesn't work like that. You do need a collection of tools in an organization to really succeed, really grow the business and meet, you know, your customer, your staff, and your business objectives. But you need to choose the right tools and combine them together to deliver a service in a way that customers are excited, that your staff are involved and engaged, and that delivers a valuable outcome in a transparent way. They exist. Ignore the hype. Go and get the right tools, go and try it, and go and build that type of organization where your people can be the best them, and the automation bits can take the robotic pieces out of people.
Thank you, Kieran. What advice can you give organizations looking to use automation to help combat profit shortfalls from COVID?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So at this moment, you know, COVID is impacting organizations' profits. You can't say more than that. You know, we have customers who aren't able to turn up at our doorsteps. You know, you've nervous people who won't venture out. It'll be interesting to see if people's fears, because it is fear, we're honest here, will stop people going out going forward. And therefore, for organizations, I think we need to give people the opportunity to engage with us. And that, by that I mean, you know, using obviously phone. You know, we can get a phone redirected anywhere. You can create cloud phone systems online on websites. You know, you can use chatbots and artificial intelligence and robotics to process transactions, to answer queries that people might have. You know, you can start to use these technologies not only to stay in business when maybe some of your staff aren't available, and these technologies are available online. You know, there's lots of different examples, like Amazon as a chatbot, Facebook as a chatbot. You know, these are the things that you can do. I think at this moment in time, Ivan, people are going to be a little bit more forgiving. So if you see a cat passing my head, I think week 1 on Zoom, we would have worried. By week 4, it's all normal and no one notices it. So therefore, if you don't have the perfect tool up, but you're still available and you're using automation and digital technologies to try and help people, I think our customers will be really forgiving. And therefore, take that opportunity to try things, to launch these things, you know, to enable us and our customers be that little bit more efficient and more productive and give them what they need, and then iterate it in an agile fashion to make it better and better and better. So by the time we do come out of lockdown and we, you know, end up back in our offices or in a hybrid situation, whatever it is in between, you know, we will have become more digital organizations. We will have learned during a very forgiving time.
Thank you, Kieran. This is a really good question. Am I right that under GDP, you can refuse to have your data processed by a machine?
Oh, I need to look at that. I think there's 2 segments of GDPR, 2 separate sections, and if I can find them, I'll pass them on. There's a comment around the electronic processing of data. So I think you need to let people know that they're doing it, and I think you can refuse. But don't hold me to that. I've not worked in a law firm for 15 years, but I can try and hunt it out and see. But there's definitely references to it. And again, I used the example I mentioned a moment ago. You know, my electronic data can be used to price my insurance policy. Would I want that to happen? If I opt out, I might get a better price. I don't know.
Okay. I think we got time.
These are getting hard.
I think we've got time for one more question, Kieran. Just so everyone's aware, we will get all your questions answered. So what we'll do is we'll get the questions over to Kieran at the end, and we'll get the responses over to your email. One more question, we'll pull it out, Kieran. The digital revolution is well underway. Are there any future technology disruptors in regards to changing how we all live that you can see coming?
Yeah, I suppose yeah, it's a big one, actually. That is a big one. Just started from the beginning, we could have talked for a while. It's interesting. Remember, I have been in technology and business for years. I describe myself as a business person, but technology has been an absolute driver through that. I see, in all honesty, Ivan, digital everything going forward. You know, and that's not to remove the human out of the loop in any shape, form, or other. But AR and VR is going to be massive. You know, robots in work going to be huge. The physical ones are already there in warehousing. The robotic ones will be in place in organizations in the next numbers of years. You know, as long as you apply them in the right context. I see multi-channel being a big thing, online, offline, WhatsApp, Zoom, you name it, it's in there. AR, VR meetings are going to be key. Drone delivery, you can see that happening in pilot in the south of Ireland. Robot delivery, you know, so I see it's not one thing here, it's all things digital are just going to become more and more and more prescient. This time is so unique, I think everybody's been pushed and forced to go digital, where I mentioned earlier on that sometimes organizational culture or people's resistance to change stop things. I think we'll see a tremendous leap forward over the next period of time, because people will have got so used to paying digitally, engaging interactively, accepting that there's automation and robots happening in the background. The only one layer of caution I would say, Ivan, is not everybody is connected to the internet, as crazy as that may seem. Not everybody has a laptop. And the scary thing is, all those individuals who need, or if, as organizations and government move to digital, who need a laptop, who need broadband, who need taught out how to do it or to use this technology, the fear is that a proportion of society could get left behind. And that is one of my biggest fears at the same time. So digital everything with a human heart, with us bringing everyone with us, I think that is the thing that we need to do going forward.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. That's the end, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Really appreciated. As mentioned, if you can make a donation to the NHS, would be fantastic. We will send the recording of this webinar. Keep the questions coming in. We'll make sure we will get the answers back to you. Thank you. Thank you, Kieran.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talking today.
Cheers. Bye now.
Bye now.